And so as the qualities of yourself change, your love, your understanding, your mercy, your sense of humor, a whole bunch of the tree of life. It's really that you become more like the tree of life, in which you have some of your chakras move and some new ones develop in the configuration that you see as the tree of life. And when you have a fully developed being who's an eternal and immortal, then you have a sphere that is a flower of life. And the whole sphere, the whole thing is taking in energy from every direction.
Ever contemplated the remarkable journey of consciousness expansion? Penny Kelly, a seasoned consciousness researcher, offers profound insights into this transformative odyssey, illuminating its profound impact on individuals and the world. She posits that life is an ever-unfolding process designed for us to expand our consciousness, awaken our inner power, and embrace boundless wisdom and grace. Kelly's own Kundalini awakening experience, initially overwhelming, underscores the transformative power of connecting with higher consciousness or energy fields. She asserts that the world's chaos and corruption stem from limited consciousness, presenting an urgent call for collective reorganization towards higher states of awareness that prioritize cooperation over competition. In sum, Penny Kelly's wisdom offers a beacon of hope and guidance for those on the path of consciousness expansion, reminding us that despite the tumultuous journey, we are collectively moving towards a more compassionate, harmonious world. It's now time to tune into this one very inspirational human being. Enjoy. So good morning, a good afternoon, or good evening, depending on what side of this globe you are at in this very moment. We have another special guest for you. We have the beautiful Penny Kelly. Welcome to the show.
Oh, it's good to be here. Thank you for inviting me. And this is one of my favorite topics.
I know. Well, I'm glad it is. I'm glad. And we'll unpack that. And I can't wait. This is a topic we've never had on the show. And we've been, I think, almost 8 years now. So it's a topic we've never talked about. A topic I'd like to, and I'm still learning about, which I know you know it very well from your own experience. But the way that we love to start the show is we love to ask our guests, what inspired you to do what you do today?
Wow, I'm not sure I can answer that. I think but I didn't really have a plan for my life. It was grow up, get married, live happily ever after. That was the plan. And from there, everything fell apart. So it's just been a whole series. I've had 5 major careers that each one led to the next. I started out first as a mother. I still am a mother, a grandmother, a great-grandmother. And then I became an engineer. And then from there, I went to education and spent 18 years as an educational consultant, and then became a naturopathic physician. And then through all of that, once Kundalini happened in 1978, it started in 78, and then it went full bore in 79. That changed everything. And I did try to hide that for many years, but you can't hide Kundalini. And so it became this way of responding to people. And pretty soon people would say, "Can I talk to you?" And I would be like, "Well, yeah, I guess so. What about? I mean, why do you want to talk?" And I would get this answer frequently, and it would be something like this. Because you seem to see things, or you seem to know, or you seem to understand, or you seem to something that they recognize that I was trying to hide. And that's how it started, was just this constant stream of people saying, "Can I talk to you?" And so eventually people started saying, "Well, can I give you some money?" Because I would say, "No, I don't have time." "Well, can I give you some money?" And I'm like, for what? I had no clue that there was this whole field of metaphysics, that there was this whole new age thing. There was, none of that. And so it was this period of stumbling and then finally saying, okay, I guess this is what I'm here to do. And I had wanted to write. And eventually I said, oh my gosh, what if there's other people out there that are struggling with this same thing that I am going through? I think I'm going to write about that. And so I started writing, and then the whole thing just continued from there. So then I started publishing. So I have a publishing company. So it's been quite a journey all the way, and here I am at this point, looking at the world, and there are some things that about yourself after Kundalini, and those things are, what are you doing here? Why did you come here? And there were also a whole series of visits from this group of little men in brown robes who kept appearing in my kitchen or my living room after Kundalini occurred. And they wanted to show me pictures. And some of the pictures that they showed me were, this is what you came here to do. And we're asking you to renew your commitment. And I'm like, oh no, I'm sorry. What are you talking about? I can't do that. Are you crazy? And it's exactly what I'm doing now. And so, and they said, no, just, it'll all happen very naturally. And it did. It unfolded very naturally. So, it's been really a very unusual, very interesting path, and all of the things that I learned along the way, the farming, because I was raised as a farmer, and very self-sufficient, we were self-sustaining people. And then, getting out, getting an education, that education cost me everything, and it also bought me everything. So, I would say at this point it was not a plan. It was just going where I seemed to be led, and things would happen at the most unusual times that were so synchronous. And I look back and I think, oh yeah, the timing of all of it was just uncanny. So here I am, writing, speaking, teaching, trying to help the world.
Amazing. And you're doing an amazing job. And can I just say, you've got great children. Would you say you had children and grandchildren?
Yeah.
You don't even look that old. You don't look old enough to have grandchildren. You look amazing.
Well, thank you. One of the things the little man brown robes said to me was, take good care of yourself. You have to last a long time. Your real work will not start until you are older. And I thought that meant 50, maybe 60. When 70 came and went, I was like, okay, are we starting? How old is this job gonna, how old am I gonna be? So in a couple months, I'll be 76. And I've been really starting my real work at the age of 71. So I've been at it for about 4 years, since 2020.
Amazing.
So 21, 2, 3. Yeah.
Beautiful. Absolutely amazing. So for our audience, I just wanted to share with you why we invited Penny on the show, and we talked a little bit about it beforehand, is to really unpack Kundalini and what is Kundalini awakening. And purely because in my small mind, I thought that a Kundalini awakening is similar to, because I was doing lots of meditation, that only a guru could do that with either a Shaktik or a Dharma or whatever that may be. They, like bless you, or, do something that awakens up that Kundalini, and so I'd hear about it, but I never experienced it. I thought, but then there's this one day I experienced, and it wasn't pleasant, where I didn't sleep for about 8 weeks. I thought I was going crazy. I was hearing these to the point where I thought I must have tinnitus.
Yeah.
I can't even say it. And then I would be woken up with the bed shaking, and as I shared with you, Penny, we've had a few tremors, but there were no tremors, and clear voices, like as if someone was sitting next to me talking to me. And what I had done, and I've gone through a second, so I hope these don't last forever because they're not pleasant. They're not nice, because you do feel like you're going crazy. And it wasn't until my sister introduced me to Penny Kelly that I looked her up and I went, oh my gosh, I feel like someone understands me. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I was losing my mind, and I felt grounded.
Good.
And I've had lots of, as we shared, lots of different understanding and a real love for everything around me, which is very different to what it was before. So maybe let's talk about what Kundalini is, and share your experience.
Okay. Classically speaking, Kundalini is defined as the full spontaneous awakening of consciousness. And when that when that occurs, you have unlimited consciousness for a period of time. Some people, it's only a day. For some people, it's 2 or 3 days. For some people, it's a year or 2 years. For me, it was 3. And that has been, it's quite an issue when you have unlimited consciousness. And so some of the signs of Kundalini are exactly what you just laid out there, Catherine. It's the shaking. In fact, in the tradition of making a shaman, the shaking is one of the signs that there's a real change happening. Why does that shaking happen? It's because we are made of frequencies, and the frequencies during a Kundalini awakening shift into different relationships. And we're pretty, I mean, the material stuff that we're made of is pretty, I'm going to use the term rigid, even though it moves and it breathes and all of that. It's pretty set in its ways, and it's pretty rigid. But when you have an energetic change happening in the core self, the result is that it feels like there's an earthquake happening inside of you, and you shake, and you can't help it, and you can't stop. And there's often a roaring sound or some god-awful sound that just fills you. Sometimes that sound will lead to a moment of going into a small coma. You blank out, you fall down. You hope you don't hurt yourself when you fall. Other times, they're in a full Kundalini awakening. There's a series of orgasms that move up through the body and hit every nerve plexus in the spine as it moves up until it hits the brain, and it just blows the brain, and your consciousness of your existence is gone. All you are left with is the Godhead, which is what you're made of, and that it's traditionally referred to as the I am, because that's all that you know there. You don't know yourself. And to say I am sounds like a contradictory thing. Like you're talking about, well, I am. Well, it's not you, the individual you. It's this amazing field that looks like you're in outer space somewhere, with billions of little twinkling dots of light. And those dots of light have this one awareness, and you are those lights, and this one awareness is I am. But it's not you. You have no recollection, no memory, no past, no future, no house, no dog, no cat, no kids, no nothing. You don't have an individual life, and you never did when you are in that state of consciousness. And so you'll hang there for a few moments, maybe only 15, 20, 30 seconds, and then it's over. But it's not over, because in that rush of energies, electromagnetic changes and frequency changes happen throughout the body, and your chemistry is different. Your consciousness is open. There are no barriers to what you want to know. That's very problematic if you have somebody who's got any sort of normal curiosity, or any kind of normal interaction with people, in which, I'll give you an example. You're talking with somebody and they say something, and you think to yourself, now, why did they say that? And this flood of information comes in, showing all of that person's past lives, everything that they've ever experienced, everything that's driving them at the moment, all of their hurt, all of the lies they're telling themselves about their life, all of the truths that they're trying to bring forward. All of that comes flooding in, and it's just this boggling amount of information. And if you do not have, I'll say, any introductory experience or no background in consciousness, then all of that is just like, you're overwhelmed by that, totally overwhelmed, distracted, and um, you're looking at, you're seeing, you're hearing, you're knowing, you're feeling, and you're seeing across this huge spectrum of the other person's life, and you're watching yourself even in that relationship, and it just leads to this paralysis. And so handling all of that over and over again teaches you eventually to like shut up in the inner core of yourself, enter into this absolute silence, because the minute you have a thought, you're going to draw information, visions, voices, feelings, all kinds of other beings, all kinds of dimensions open up. And so you learn to practice silence as almost a method of self-defense against trying to deal with the fear that you're going insane. It's too much information, TMI, or what do they do, like this kind of thing? No. And so that was, you do not sleep. Consciousness does not need to sleep. And so I did not sleep for 3 years. And there was this flood of information. I became absolutely incoherent at times in my effort to try to, that's why I left engineering. It was like, I can't do this anymore. I need to go home and hide. And so I did. I went home and I hid for 3 years. I absolutely could not make heads or tails out of anything. I had no background in consciousness. I had no background in metaphysics. I hadn't taken, I think at that point I had taken Psych 101 in college. That was it. And I was, trying to put things together, and nothing was matching up and nothing was fitting. And all of the stuff that I was seeing and knowing, it was like, what do I do with that? What do I do with that? And so it was a rough period. And little by little, over time, many, many years, almost a decade and a half, it took me to sort out, okay, this is what happened. I still have the gifts, because you become clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient, clairnascent, which is the ability to smell somebody from, miles away or around the world. Clairgustant, which is the ability to taste and feel, what is that plant? What is the effect that plant has on me before you taste it, before you take that plant? Or you read a recipe and you can taste it, you know what it's going to taste like beforehand. So those are some of the examples of clairvoyance. I call them the clairs, the 5 clairs. And so they're yours. And I spent so much time trying to go back to being a normal woman. And it really just never happened. I finally realized through one of the beings that came to me and said, look, you're trying to go backwards. You're trying to go back to being an unawakened woman. This is what a normal human is supposed to be. And that was like, really? Oh, kind of a aha moment. And at that point, I began to relax a little bit and think, well, if this is the norm, what can I do with this? And, and so I proceeded from there to embark on some different research projects. And so I've learned a few things about consciousness and how it works, and the nature of reality. Oh my, is far different from what most people grow up believing. So I started teaching almost from the beginning, and I've been teaching now for 43 years, and it's really been a labor of love. I love teaching. Teaching was one of those things that, if you had said to me when I was in my 20s, oh, you're going to be a teacher, I would have went, who wants to be a teacher? That's the most boring job in the world. And the first night that I taught a class, I came out of that classroom and I was just like Snoopy and Charlie Brown and Lucy walking on air, like, yes, this is it. I love this. Oh my God. And I've taken a few breaks from teaching now and then, hoping that the world would catch up a little bit. And it is. A lot of people waking up. They're waking up the hard way, just like I did. Information that I didn't want to know, that I didn't know what to do with, that I didn't feel I could do anything about. Those are the characteristics of waking up, of consciousness that can no longer deny itself. So here we are.
Wow. So I've got so many questions. That's so powerfully said. I and at the same time as I'm listening to you, as I explained to you, I'm going through a second wave. I hope it doesn't last 3 years. It's not a. I have to be honest. It's actually not a pleasant thing to experience. And from what I believed, what Kundalini was, and when you're talking about, I remember one. And it happened a few times. I felt like somebody had gone in my brain and taken my brain out, and then like was doing something to my head. And I remember waking up, holding my head, like in tears, going, "What's going on?" There's this. I was really, really scared.
I know.
There was so much fear associated to it, and it wasn't until I found you. I have to say that I am more grounded, but I'm also I wanted to get you on the show because I'm sure I'm not the only one out there experiencing it.
Yeah.
And I follow astrology. I've been doing astrology since my mid-20s. So there is this
Well,
consciousness awakening that's taking place. So then it
yes.
got me thinking, do you think, Penny, that a lot of other people go through it too? Like, it's like, what creates it? What starts it?
There's a couple different things that started. So for me, I think the moment was stepping into a moment of unconditional love. And I've said this in other interviews, but I think it's a very valid analogy. If you were a submarine and you were submerged down in the ocean and you were 300 feet down and somebody poked a hole in your submarine, the water doesn't sit out there and say, "Oh, there's a hole. Should we go in?" It doesn't work like that. The same thing holds true for this universe, this ocean of energy that we are floating in, walking in, talking in, living in. The minute your guard goes down and you open fully without any reserve to the ocean of energies around you, it goes roaring through you like a jet plane, or I described it as a train moving up the center of me and it drowns out every sound, and there's shaking going on. And I think breathing stops for a short time. There's, it's a very frightening experience. At the same time, that there's this rearrangement of all of your chemistry, all of your frequencies. Chemistry follows frequency. So when frequencies change, your chemistries change. Your DNA will be different. Your, all of your everything about you will be different. So your thinking, your feeling, etc. Your capacities of consciousness, what you can do with that. So that's the individual awakening. Another type of awakening is one in which an individual has a moment of total openness, guard down with another individual. And so they may meet eyes. I've had somebody who, was at church and happened to lock eyes with somebody that he didn't even know and had this complete and total Kundalini experience. And one of the side effects of that is love. So this tremendous love that doesn't need a certain person or certain set of conditions or a certain kind of feedback or recognition. You just cannot help but love. And so you fall in love with life. And so that occurs. Another person that I knew was on a pottery wheel, and happened to look up as her instructor was putting his hands around hers to say, "No, hold it." I guess she was making some sort of bowl or something. And she looked up and his eyes were right there. And she said, "I fell into his eyes." And it was like I was falling into this blackness with all these little twinkling lights. And I lost consciousness. I started to tip over. I felt like there was this big jerk in my body where she was trying to catch herself. And after that moment, everything was different for her. The way she felt about this pottery, about her husband, her family, her job, her location, she changed everything. And so now what I'm seeing around the planet is we're having a planetary awakening. A lot of people waking up. And those that do not wake up will stay with the third dimension. Those that are waking up will move into another realm that's kind of just very close and go back and forth between the two. But the ones that are awake are seeing what's happening. They're seeing the truth. It's painful. Oh my gosh, it's painful. But at the same time, they're not able to deny it anymore. They're losing sleep over it because of stress, changes that they don't know what to do with, don't know how to handle, don't know what they could do. All of that is characteristic of what I would call a group awakening. And what happens in the long run, very gently, very naturally, there's nothing spectacular that happens, but is that those who enter into a more awakened state move pretty naturally toward fourth dimensional um, consciousness, which has a different set of reasons and frequencies, um, and goals and ethics and values and ideas of how to live. And they're no longer willing to participate in what I'll call strictly third dimensional. And on my website, I do have a chart that shows the difference between third dimensional thinking, fourth dimensional thinking, and fifth dimensional thinking. And it's you can see that we're moving toward fourth dimension. And some people I've heard from a few people saying, "Oh, fourth dimension is demons." I'm like, "Oh, no, it's not. I'm sorry." That whole demon business, that's churchy stuff. And that you can get caught up in that stuff. But you can't get lost in all those old religious ideas, or you're going to end up shooting yourself in the foot in terms of your awakening of consciousness. And that, I'm going to say, that is in fact, one of the earliest people that I worked with who found their way to me from Australia, in fact, way back when, like 20, 25 years ago, was absolutely convinced that the devil had gotten a hold of her. And what she described was a perfect Kundalini awakening on an airplane. And her terror from that point forward was almost off the charts. And it was a lot of work on her part, some on my part as well, trying to teach her what was normal. Somebody from India, found their way to my door, absolutely terrified that demons, the devil had gotten a hold of them. When you're talking about consciousness, you're talking about energy that has no limits. And that is something that is very, very important to understand. It's not demons, it's not the devil. Those are made up, you know, things. There are bad people out there. You can call them devils or demons if you want. But the awakening is the awakening to everything. And I have been in some places that I would not recommend. And they were terrifying. They were not good. Um, However, when you've had the awakening, you have more light. You give off more light. And there are beings who are out there, say in the universe, watching for whose lights are on. And they kind of watch over. They kind of try to help. That's a very, very common thing. There is help out there if you should get into something that scares you. So, you know, we're on planet Earth. We are in a group awakening because there's a planetary shift occurring, and that awakening is non-negotiable. You either stay in the old and suffer, or you move to something that does not involve as much suffering. But you have to take much more responsibility for your choices and the things that you decide and the actions that you take.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And you know what? One of the things that also, as you were speaking, for our audience as well, as when it sounds scary, it is scary. It's not a pleasant thing. So I'm not going to, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. So one thing that I did share with Penny is I have a different understanding. I do have a knowing, I guess, is probably the best thing. That's never been activated before. A really deep knowing, just I know something without even no proof, no evidence, but I just know it. It's so like in my core, I just know, like you were saying, you could be having a conversation with someone, and there's just this information. It's just, oh, I know why they're saying that, and you can see beyond the words they're speaking. It's almost like you can see there is a purpose to why they are, and it could be as simple as they just want to be seen or valued. And so how I'm around all my different people, family and friends now too, I'm different around them. So there is light at the end of the tunnel. It's not all doom and gloom. It is terrifying. And I think that's why it was really important to get you on the show to share that if anyone out there is going through it, which you're not going crazy, because I thought I was losing my mind. I did. I found quite often nights in just in tears, because I thought there was something going on. And you know, when you were talking about, you know, this whole I remember that there's times that I felt like the bed was shaking, that I felt like I was getting pulled out of bed. That's how, you know, and there's so much fear involved in it.
I know.
But
What's got a hold of me? Something's got a hold.
Yes, like someone's trying to pull me out of bed. Someone's trying to kidnap me. Yeah.
That's only the expansion of the energy body occurring at that moment. It feels like there's a pull, and it's really the expansion process. Literally, with Kundalini, more energy begins to flow through you, and you get, if we were to use an analogy of the physical body, you gain weight. So, you know, you get bigger, you get heavier, you get more muscular, but it's all light.
So,
can
people, because just from my understanding, I thought it was something you would seek and you would activate. And what you were sharing before, it could happen, like you were sharing, like there was somebody like doing pottery work and they just had their glimpse. It's almost like someone, so is somebody able to project a Kundalini activation? And can someone go seeking for it?
Yeah, let me say this. You don't have to seek it. It's built in. There are thresholds that if you have enough energy at your fingertips, that you're going to use that energy to reorganize the self at a higher level. And we are, I use the example of an acorn. You know, you put an acorn in the ground and you keep it warm and you add water and it swells. That's this first stage of Kundalini, as your energy body swells. Um, and then this acorn, you know, sends out this shoot, like, okay, what's the surrounding area that I'm in? And then it sends up this tree. It becomes this magnificent oak. And the oak is going to be shaped with each branch following one of the many pathways that energy flows up out of the earth. And wherever that acorn is planted, the energy coming out of the earth at that spot is going to be displayed in the shape and the branching of that tree. And that's true for all trees. Okay. So each type of tree interacts with that energy in a characteristic way, but the branching will be unique to the spot it's planted. So that's true for us. And now I've gotten off track from whatever the question was, but as we unfold, as we become something new, it's nice if that can happen gently and a little at a time. And if there was any education that said this is how we're designed, if there was any kind of religion that said, you know, it's about unfolding your consciousness, it's about stepping into your power, it's about becoming unlimited in terms of your wisdom and your grace. Grace is the ability to work with that energy. And so yes, you can have a Kundalini experience. You can have an awakening even when you don't want it. I spent the first 3 years crying, stop, you know, I don't want this, go away, leave me alone. That didn't have one bit of effect, not one. And so then there's the other pathway where if you get into I'm going to say the field or the energy area of somebody like a guru who has a tremendous field and their energy has been shifted again and again up and up some more and up some more and outward and etc. You're going to resonate with that. And when they look at you eye to eye, or they touch you, or you just walk through their field, that's going to impact you, and your body is going to take that moment to try to rearrange a little bit of itself right then. So we're designed to unfold and to unfold one another, and to move into higher states of consciousness, more expansive states, that where we're not putting up with the kind of crap that we're putting up with now. And so when I hear people say, oh my God, it's crazy out there. Yes, it is. The craziness is becoming apparent to everybody. The things that we should not be doing, you know, people talk about karma all the time. What's karma? It's the result of your decision. So how do you get off the quote karmic wheel? You know, how do you step out of stupidity? You make a different decision. You decide to do something else other than, you know, than your traditional habits and perceptions would, you know, lead you to do. And what we see as we look out there is that all of the things that we thought were in place, that we thought were guidelines, the ethics, the values, all of those have been sort of booted out of the way. And what we're being treated to is a play that is displaying this is what corruption looks like. This is what third dimensional beings become when they fail to evolve in a timely fashion. When they don't have access to other realms, then this is all they see. It's all they know. And they are greedy. They become greedy. They're trying to get more of everything. They become terribly competitive. That's a third dimensional characteristic. Cooperation is fourth dimensional. So we are seeing a group awakening, and that is, it's going to be a call to, I'm going to say it just like as if it was happening in a physical body. What we see happening out there in the world is going to become a call or an absolute unavoidable need to reorganize. Now, if you're reorganizing a body and you're a woman, maybe your thyroid is going to be different. Your metabolism will change. Maybe your ovaries will be different, etc. Your periods will change. If you're a male, maybe your testosterone will be different. All of those things change you. And in what you see in a world like ours is the reorganization is not within the physical body. For some, it will be. Those who are waking up just now, they have the added burden of the internal reorganization and having to be part of the external reorganization that we will be called upon to make as a result. Because Kundalini that is not successful results in insanity, or you burst into flame and burn up from the inside out. You cannot handle the energies that are moving through you. You short circuit somewhere along the way, and you see idiopathic combustion. That's what the scientists call it all the time. Here and there, even people, I knew of a French girl who burst into flame in the shower at college. Water doesn't put out that kind of fire. It's an electromagnetic fire. We are going to need to reorganize our world, everything about it, completely from the ground up, or we will self-destruct.
It's very aligned with astrology, as you're speaking about it, because in astrology we talk about the shifting or the breaking down of systems, because that's Pluto from Capricorn moving to Aquarius, and that's
I don't know astrology, but I know a few things.
Yeah.
So keep.
Yeah.
Sorry,
you can see the breaking down in system, whether it's medical, government, school, whatever that may be. All systems are breaking down, financial systems, and so it's very aligned to what you were saying. There's so much reorganizing, because once it moves into Aquarius, it's about the people, and you can start seeing that coming to light. There's communities that are gathering together, the people are coming together, but I had not thought about the reorganize, which makes sense, as above so below, the reorganization that's taking place in time.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things people experiencing from that change
internally?
Yeah.
Or just in the world,
when you're saying the body reorganizing itself, because I think there was a Cynthia Larson, she was talking about our heart now is moved. It's not so much in the left-hand side, like from the research she's doing. So she was talking about even our heart shifting from the left into the center.
Okay, so when you have this huge influx of energy moving through you, if you've seen most of the chakra, or the 7 chakras that are depicted for most people are one up here and one here and here, and they're all in a straight line right down the body. When you begin to develop other capacities of consciousness, those capacities are fed by the intake of a new chakra. A chakra system is an intake system for energy, and it will develop off to the side. And then, and so as the qualities of yourself change, your love, your understanding, your mercy, your sense of humor, a whole bunch of the tree of life. It's really that you become more like the tree of life. That's a secondary stage in which you have some of your chakras move and some new ones develop in the configuration that you see as the tree of life. And when you have a fully developed being who's an eternal and immortal, then you have a sphere that is a flower of life. And the whole sphere, the whole thing is taking in energy from every direction. And all these little whorls look like flowers. They kind of look like morning glory flowers that are twirling around. And it's an amazing, amazing sight. It's a beautiful sight. If you've ever seen a being who's fully developed, you can't You can hardly look at them because they're so bright. They usually will wear some kind of cloak or robe to, so that you can look at them without being blinded. So we do change. That's one of the changes. That's a more advanced change. Other changes, like I mentioned, your taste in foods will change. All of a sudden, you will become very aware that I need to eat more meat, more vegetables, less vegetables, no sugar. I need to stop this. I need to start exercising. There's all kinds of changes in the awareness of what it is. It will maintain the temple. This is the temple. So then you begin to change how you cook and where you shop and what how you organize your finances. All of that changes. If you're with somebody who is not changing, that can spark a fair number of arguments and disagreements over how to handle something. You may be very impatient with the short-sightedness of people that you love. When you know that it's possible to see inside every other person in every other situation, and then you have these obtuse people that you live with, that you might have given birth to even, and they don't get it, and they just continue pounding away the same old complaints and arguments and reinforcing the same old crap, and you're just not there. That causes all kinds of issues. There's what I'm going to call a change in what has meaning to you internally. Maybe climbing the corporate ladder meant everything. After Kundalini, that means nothing. And so it's like, what did I do all that other stuff earlier in life? Well, that's where you were at the time. If you're married and you have, socked yourself in with spouses and children and house payments and car payments and all of those things, then you end up not wanting to pay those, not wanting to honor those because they have not as much meaning or sometimes no meaning anymore. And so that's a problem. So, and you can't lie to yourself. That's a big issue. You cannot pretend. You can't continue working at something that you just cannot do. You know what you're here to do. You have to follow that. If you haven't figured out how to make money doing that, you're going to spend some time in poverty. So those are some of the internal changes that occur. In the meantime, family and friends, what are they saying? They're going to be saying, you irresponsible fool, you selfish, greedy SOB, you this, you that. And they will try to pull you back into the rut that you just got blasted out of. And you have to listen to that and not cave to that, because if you cave, you're going to get sick, because the energy flowing through you will no longer support the lie. And that creates so much conflict that now the new you is not supported and you go down. You'll get some sort of disease, or you'll have a heart attack, or something will happen. You'll go to the hospital, you're feeling terrible, and they say there's nothing wrong. You're perfectly normal. And so you can't rely on the medical system to be able to diagnose the external stuff. That's when what's changing and what you're knowing is internal. So there are issues there. So, and that's, you go through stages where you're trying to hold it all together. And then the next stage is you let it go, and now you have nothing and nobody, and people are angry with you. They think you're irresponsible. They think you're selfish. And they tell other people that. And so now nobody's talking to you. You may lose everything. I lost everything: house, kids, appliances, furniture, everything, everything. And I would have been on the street, but for an elderly woman who said, well, come and live in my basement. And so I went and lived in her basement, and I spent a year down there. And I cried most of that year. And I had people calling me, You owe us this, you owe us that. I didn't have any money. I couldn't function. So it was a very rough period. All of those, I have heard those same stories again and again from almost everybody who has had a full awakening and no training, no education to inform them as to how does this unfold, and I've said to people, You're right, you're going to cry. The crying lasts about a year and a half, maybe two. And what you're going to cry about is you're going to see what is, and you're going to know what you're seeing. It doesn't have to be that way. And that will cause great grief that you won't be able to blow off. So little by little, as for me, somebody in the basement said, why could you come over here and help me with this? Yeah, okay, I'll do that because I didn't have anything else to do. Um, and and I succeeded at that. And it just kept succeeding. And then once I got back out into the world, people wanted to talk to me. The whole counseling thing started because I could see a lot. And it just grew from there. So you end up becoming in some way or another of service to yourself and humanity. And you understand you have to take care of yourself first so that you can be a help to others where it fits, with what the universe brings to you. You accept that, you deal with that, and you do that with great joy. So, and everything gets returned to you in a new and better way, and in an abundance that I can't even begin to describe. So that's we're about to go through the roughest part of this awakening, this group awakening on this planet. And we're seeing that it's all unfolding, that there's some fools out there that are doing things they don't need to be doing, and they're going to do them. And we're going to have to stand by and, put it all together again. And it'll be much better.
Yeah. And, I had another insight. So thank you for sharing that, because I absolutely have gone through that. There are people that are no longer in my life.
Yeah.
I couldn't pretend anymore, couldn't live a
No,
lie anymore. I had to stand
no.
in my truth. And from that, I lost lots of people.
Yeah.
So it's kind of really comforting. I know it sounds horrible, but there's a sense of comfort now that I'm not selfish. For the first time in my life, I just decided I can no longer not put myself as part of this equation. And like, I'm 57, Penny, and I've never been able to say I love me. And for the first time in my life, I said I love you, I've got your back, and I trust you. And I've never been able to do that ever.
Oh,
And I do all of this work I've been doing it for 30 odd years. And I have followed a calling, which is a calling that's taken me a little bit to the right, because I just surrendered instead of trying to fight what was happening, because it was very painful. And I spent I've also cried like I've never cried like in my whole entire life.
oh, I know.
Yeah.
I cried an ocean.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, you can't help it. You have to allow yourself to feel what you're feeling. You have to acknowledge that. And when you do, you discover the magic of feeling. Once you feel it, then something is integrated and goes away.
Yeah.
But it leaves its wisdom. It doesn't leave its pain.
Mm.
So that's what I think the world has to trust right now. Yeah, there's some pain out there, and it'll be okay. We'll be left with this amazing wisdom and this extraordinary love for one another and this cooperation and these ethics that will be refound and reinstituted. And there's so many beautiful things that are right on the cusp. And I know a lot of them that are waiting to step out, and they're saying, no, not in this world, not yet, not until that falls down. So
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
know it's when it's really hard. I don't know. For me, I'm a natural empath, but all of this experience has made me extra sensitive.
Oh,
That
yeah.
there's times I wake up and I feel like my soul has been crying because of what's happening. I don't watch the
I know.
news. I don't read the newspaper. I don't. You don't need to. I mean, people tell me because I'm always with people. I run classes and so
Right.
forth. But
Exactly.
it's painful.
I know. I know. Oh my gosh.
But I
Yeah.
believe what you're saying, that there will, there is going to be, a friend of mine just said, astrologically, when are things going to change? Are things going to get better? And I said, yes, they will. But
Yeah.
sometimes things need to get worse before they get better.
Uh-huh.
And I think that we're right at that crossroad right now.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I think there's going to be a lot of tears between now and maybe next February. Um, and a lot of hurt and a lot of sorrow and a lot of loss. Um, it's the nature of reality. So if you, I tell people, chin up, gather your resources, gather yourself, get yourself in a pile. Try to keep I call it my bricks. I try to keep my bricks in a pile. And that really is a full-time piece of work, just trying to keep yourself together and be of service to others that are just the gift in that is discovering other souls, other people that are waiting just like you are for the mess to be over, and for a whole new system, a new sanity, a new kind of consciousness to shine through. It's
I agree.
coming.
Yeah, I believe it 100%. Now, Penny, I am very conscious of your time and I'm looking at the time. So, the way that we wrap up the show, I think we'll have to get you to come back on the show because there's so many questions I want to ask you. Um, we
Okay.
always love to leave our audience with three shiny golden nuggets. So, what would be those three shiny golden nuggets that you would like to leave for our audience today?
I think probably the first would be the encouragement to expand your consciousness. Let yourself know what you've been trying to avoid. Let yourself feel what you've been trying to avoid feeling. And of course, laugh and dance and cry, period. So I think, let's see, hold on here. I have some notes here. Um, oh, this is a big one. Um, if you want to work in the new world, I'll call it the new world. The thing that Dolores Cannon called the new earth. Okay. If you want to be part of that, you have to learn the true nature of reality, because as you expand your consciousness, the science, the rules, the forces that are at your fingertips change. There's more of them. You're more powerful. You need to know how that works or you're not going to be able to use it. So that's a very big thing. Um, one woman wrote to me and said, "Don't tell me that I have to learn physics now on top of all this stuff." And I wrote back and said, "Yes, you do. I'm sorry. And it's very simple. You don't need to understand all the math and all of the engineering behind it, but just understand that the nature of reality is it's all frequency. How do those frequencies interact?" And then I think the last thing I would say would be, when life gets overwhelming and there's too much, like no, la, 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 kind of thing, then practice shifting your consciousness. I used to have a little cup that I kept handy, but I don't have it with me. And I kept that cup handy because it was beautiful. It was a hand painted Limoges cup with a little bit of gold edging on it that I got from my grandmother. And it was when life got really overwhelming and ugly, I would shift my attention to that cup and I would just look at that cup and I'd be listening to whatever somebody was saying that was hurtful or awful or frightening or whatever. But I'd be focused on that cup. And there's something about shifting your focus to beauty to something that is truthful, to something that is funny or, makes you laugh, or, going outside in nature. Mother Nature doesn't get all caught up in all this drama. You go outside and it's just as quiet as it always has been. So, shift your attention and practice shifting it to other places. Go inside yourself, put yourself next year, pick a day next year, just focus there. Like, okay, what's happening? What's happening right here in front of you, and it's not fun. What's happening next June 1st or whatever? Just focus on that for a minute and let what comes to you come to you. So that practice is very, very helpful, and it teaches you to shift your consciousness. So, and that you can shift even in the midst. There's no rule that says you have to be looking at or listening to or attending very, very attentively to somebody who's doing something harmful or hurtful. So, yes, you need to know what's going on in the world, but you need to balance that with shifting into beauty, music, laughter. I tell people, go wash your socks, get real. So,
I love that. That's great. What reminds me, we had Greg Braden on the show who talked about finding the beauty even in the darkest moments. If you can seek beauty around you, it can shift your perception of what
that's
is
right.
taking place for you. So I love the fact that you brought that up. I just want to
Uh,
have one thing. When you talked about vibrational frequency,
mhm.
because how does that happen? Like, so for example, when you've got somebody that's got a higher vibrational frequency, because we all vibrate different levels, right? There's no good or bad or right or wrong. I don't want to label it as
Right.
that's wrong. You've got a lower vibrational frequency and I've got a higher one. But how does that work? Like, if you've got people that have got high vibrational frequency and they're around people that have got a low vibrational frequency, can that help lift the level of frequency? So as we
Yeah.
are waking up, as we are increasing our vibrational frequency, and so is Mama Gaia, is that helping others shift? Because you were saying that there's some that are going to wake up and some that are not. Wouldn't that vibrational frequency help them lift a little bit?
Yes, it does. It helps a lot. And this is something that I've said a few times that I think more people need to hear. There's been a lot of criticism of what have been called the sheeple, the people who aren't awake, the people who are just not paying attention, who are swallowing the Kool-Aid or drinking the Kool-Aid. And yes, there are. And people have made fun of those. And I'm like, no, no, no. You need those sheeple. They are the followers. They are the ones who will, when they see where things are going, they'll get on board because they are sheeple, because they don't want the hassle of trying to change other people's minds. They're going to go along with whatever is happening at the time, and they hold that in place. They hold that in a very powerful way. And so, for those who are in leader positions or influencer positions, yeah, keep leading, keep influencing. For those people that are afraid and they don't know who to listen to, try to listen to somebody who makes you feel a little bit better about yourself and who says, yeah, it's going to be okay, because it will be. And then go about your business and watch for people who are good hearted, ethical, honest, grounded, and have a sense of humor, as well as being in touch with what's really happening. And then, those people that will hold the whole thing, they're very, very important. They are the anchors that will help make the shift complete. So, the ones that have the higher vibration, I know a lot of people, and this is a point I should make before we close. A lot of people that are in transition from the old way of being to a more awake state, they can't handle negative people. They just don't do very well. And they say, I can't be around that. And so, and because that's only because they are not very stable themselves yet, but they're getting there. And so, for those of you that are in that transition to higher consciousness and you can't deal with negativity, know that you'll get to the point where that negativity will just roll off your back like water off a duck's back. So in the meantime, keep moving yourself toward what I'm going to call a more expansive consciousness. It isn't higher consciousness. As soon as you expand, then there's a lot more input coming in. And that extra input opens you to a whole bunch more information because frequency is consciousness. And the more frequencies you have coming through you, the more it changes your consciousness. So you don't have to, I try not to use the word higher consciousness all the time because it's so hierarchical.
Yeah.
I try to use expansive consciousness because it's inclusive and it doesn't put anybody above anybody else. And I think once you open and expand, it's going to kick your butt out of your rut.
Yeah.
So,
And I
yeah.
believe that because and I spoke to you before we came on the show, that I had that experience with Amachi where she's her light, her expansion is so big that when I got a dharma off her, I dropped to my knees because of the I couldn't handle the light. I felt like the best way that I could describe, I felt like I was touched by God. I
know
remember walking away and going, I don't know what to say.
that when you drop to your knees at that moment, that's your instant change in your energy field, no longer supporting the old you.
Okay.
That's reorganization at a core level. So, and that does happen to people. People start crying. They don't know why they're crying. They're rolling on the floor, laughing like fools, laughing their head off. Wonderful laughter. That's all part of the change of the core energy that holds you together.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you talked about the expansion because I've been practicing, those that know me know that I've been practicing non-judgment, resistant and non-attachment. And I think there's been so much division over the last couple of years that, these people are in third dimension, these people are in fifth dimension. It's like we're all one. We're all humanity. At the end of the day, we are all one. And if we keep just not judging, allow people to believe whatever they want to believe, but just expand your light and just know that we'll all head up and end up in the same place.
Exactly. Perfectly said.
Yeah. So, Penny, where do you hang out the most? Where can our tribe find you?
I am mostly on Patreon. That's where I go most frequently. I do post things on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute. I have a school that I'm starting. I had one school. I'm transitioning to another school where I teach my classes. But my website is pennykelly.com. So all of my classes and my books can be found there. If anybody's interested, sign up. I will say that I teach a class every month, all year long, and these classes are intense. You can't go back. So we do a tea in consciousness once a week, usually on Wednesday, and there's just all kinds of other interviews that I do on YouTube or Rumble or wherever the person happens to be posting. So
Beautiful, beautiful. So we'll have all of those in the show notes. Penny, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show and sharing your light and your time, your energy, and your wealth of wisdom. I know there's going to be a lot of people reaching out to you because I know I'm not the only person in the world experiencing what I'm experiencing. So I just want to say thank you for leading the way and making us feel like we're not going crazy, and helping us ground.
Yeah. When you stop pretending, you become real. So that's the bottom line, is becoming real. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on the show once again.
Yeah. Thank you too. And thank you to everybody out there for listening. I appreciate it.
Thank you.